This is the Blokees, Marvel Studios, the Infinity Saga, Marvel Blokees Figures Series 2 of model kits. And you get to see a lot of the Infinity Saga characters, a lot of Iron Man related characters though. So we've got a case, a sealed case of 9 pieces plus one figure. This is the Chase, which is the Iron Spider-Man figure. Now I picked up everything, this entire set, from Shopee. Let's get these guys out of packaging. And if you're wondering how the international box compares to the Chinese market box, here's a look at the international box. I have one because Alex, my daughter, she wanted a Doctor Strange to pair with her Loki, which we got from the previous wave, and we went out and hunted one, and we got one from Toys R Us. And here's what the box looks like. So instead of, you see the Chinese characters right there, Marvel Infinity Saga, and you get more. It says different things like a warning label right here. Interestingly enough, it is the Chinese market packaging that has the Disney hologram sticker, which the international packaging does not have. That is weird. I would expect that the international would also have that. And here's a look at the other side, which is the Mark 1. This is the Chase figure, Iron Spider, and this is the Mark 1. It says Series 2, and it says right there 2. And then this is interesting. The Chinese market box, it has the specs of the Iron Spider right here on the back. This one doesn't. This one has this. It's how the interlocking mechanism of the model kits work. So that's strange. At the back, list or the roster of the figures. I actually prefer this one over this one. This one has a ton of this legal text. Then here you have the figures in bigger format. I actually do prefer this one over this one. But yeah, so that's the differences. And also, some of the boxes randomly picked of the Chinese boxes, some of them will have the silica gel packets, those small packets that really muck up the weight of various figures. And here is everybody fully assembled out of the packaging, and I am so impressed with this wave. The amount of detail, especially the articulation on the legs, has vastly improved from Series 1. Take nothing away from Series 1. It was their first attempt at Marvel, but they really stepped up their game, Blokees, with this second series, and I am glad I got every single one of them. Let's begin with my least favorite. Unfortunately, it's the regular Spider-Man version. This is the integrated suit Spider-Man. If you watched No Way Home or Endgame or Infinity War, you will recognize this suit. This is sort of integrated suit. It's a pretty good design, actually. The details, the sculpting on this figure, if you look closely at the head sculpt and the chest, the torso, you've got the webbing actually molded in there. It's not painted. The neck is painted webbing, but the torso, the abdominal area, the chest area, and that head sculpt, they're actually sculpted. He's got his gauntlets and everything else is painted in. I like this figure, don't get me wrong, but I just wish they could have done so much more with this figure. If you look at the other figures, like the Iron Man figures, they've got extra hands, they've got extra bits of armor, they've got extra blast effects, and I'm pretty sure that exceeded the budget per figure. And I guess this is the figure that suffered and was given scraps in terms of budget, because they came up with a chase that is just phenomenal, which we'll talk about later. But this figure, just wish they could have done more. For instance, the webbing or the web shooter effect, they could have given him 2. I don't understand why they've only given him 1, and yet they've given him 2 thwip hands. That's weird. I guess budget. They put all the budget here in the other figures. Okay, maybe extra hands? That would have been nice. Some crawling hands or fists. That would have been really nice. And that would have made this one a very excellent figure. Because of the lack of effects, because it's a very, very basic figure, it's going to get an 8.5 out of 10. It's still a great figure, don't get me wrong. Now, let me talk about articulation, because it's going to be similar for most of these figures. The neck is same. Arms, basically the same articulation. The middle torso or the middle joint has a lot of range of motion. I think there's a bigger angle of articulation. And I don't know if it's because they resculpted the design of the torso, but he seems to move a little bit better than previous figures. The hips are the same, and the main difference in terms of articulation is really the legs. They've added a thigh cut or a thigh swivel, and they've added a double jointed knee. And now let me just bring in one other figure from Series 1, and this is Cap. Cap's a great figure. The knees, instead of just a hinge and the swivel, they've added that thigh cut and that double hinge knee joint. I mean, come on. This is what they need to do. They need to re-release the older figures, maybe give them belt damages and whatever, give them a new design, and change those knees into these double hinge knees. The double hinge knees also come with knee pads that are removable. And I will say this, half of the figures, the knees don't come assembled, while at least the Iron Man figures, they come already pre-assembled, which is great, because the knees are a pain to assemble. You got to put them properly, because this middle piece right here, one part is thicker than the other. If you incorrectly assemble it, if you put the thinner piece, the thinner side of this knee up into the thigh, it is near impossible to remove it. It's very loose. It's not gonna hinge properly. It's gonna be a loose hinge, and this thicker part is not gonna fit onto the lower leg. And it is a pain to remove that. That was what happened with Doctor Strange. It is crazy impossible to just remove it, but I was able to do so. The plastic did suffer a little bit. Just be careful. So the thicker side goes up to the thigh, and the thinner side goes down to the lower legs. That's what you need to remember when assembling these. And they're not easy to assemble. You gotta just work at it, and you press everything just until your fingers bleed or something. No, I'm kidding. But it is very difficult to assemble those knees. And I kind of wish they could have pre-assembled every single double hinge knee joint in this way. But unfortunately, the smaller figures like Doctor Strange, him, AntMan, the Wasp, and even the Chase, you gotta assemble them. Even Star-Lord, I think. You need to assemble them with great difficulty. Moving on, let's go to my next least favorite figure, and it is unfortunately Doctor Strange. Now, a lot of you are probably thinking, hey, he's a pretty cool figure. In fact, my daughter Alex, she's got an extra one because she just loved this figure and she put it together with Loki. Sure, it's a great figure, but for some reason I'm just not getting it. I don't know how they could have improved this. He's got the magical effects. I don't know. I love the detail. I love that he's got this detail on his belt, the Eye of Agamotto, the Cape of Levitation, if you want a comparison of capes. It's a pretty cool cape, but nothing like Thor's. I mean, look at that. I guess, like Spider-Man, I'm missing a few effects on this one because he is a magical figure. You want to display him with a lot of effects. Would have been nice if they had that ring, that sling ring portal effect. That would have been cool. It wouldn't cost so much. It's just some clear plastic. They split it into two. You can assemble it. Maybe I'm asking for too much, but it's just not doing it for me. Also, you got some mismatched colors. I guess that's how he looked like in the movie. I don't know. He's got some weird blue colors here, some, turquoise, wisteria colors. I mean, I just kind of wish they could have done so much more with this figure. So with that, he's gonna get an 8.5 out of 10 as well. It's a great figure. He holds the magical effects like Cap's shield. I think he does this better because in the first series, it's just a peg. Here it's like a shield handle. I think they're gonna modify this succeeding releases. Maybe if they do release another cap, the shield's gonna have that kind of sculpting on the handle. All right, moving on. Third to the last is Star-Lord, unfortunately. But I do prefer this one over Doctor Strange for some strange reason. And the thing that really sold this figure to me, apart from these really awesome, cool looking pistols or his blasters, is that head sculpt and the jacket. I don't know why, but I'm loving it. I do hope we get the rest of the gang, like Rocket, in proper scale, of course. We get Groot. Maybe Groot and Rocket would be like the accessory. I wouldn't mind that. And then we'd have Groot, Gamora, and Drax, of course. Maybe Nebula. Yes, please, a Nebula. Mantis. Come on, bring in the whole gang. I would totally love a complete Guardians of the Galaxy. And that's the reason I'm going to hang on to this figure. This figure is going to get a 9 out of 10 for me. I don't know, maybe he needed some booster jets, some blast effects, that kind of thing. Maybe a trench coat would have been nice. But as it is, this head sculpt, the jacket just sold me on this figure. That's why I like it more than Doctor Strange. Next up are the two shrinking figures. You got Ant-Man and the Wasp. Oh my goodness. I love these figures. I did not think I was going to like them as much, particularly this Wasp. And if you look closely, she's got some articulated wings that are on ball joints made of this really nice, clear, premium plastic, smoked clear plastic. I'm loving this Wasp figure. This is, I think, their first female figure that I mean, except for Rescue. Rescue was, it felt like an Iron Man figure because of her armor and all that, but a very first female figure done without the armor, with the skin-tight uniform or suit. This is their first female figure, and I'm loving it. I just wish they could have shrunk the feet, maybe remolded those feet, but it's taken from the same design as the feet, the gentleman's feet. I kind of wish in future releases they'd shrink the ladies' feet. It will make it look more flowing, and even in Marvel Legends characters and SH Figure Wars, the feet of the women are much smaller in mold and design, and I wish they could do that. But we'll probably see that more. I hope they do that for the, I'm guessing we're gonna get Black Widow, we're gonna get Hawkeye, Kate Bishop Hawkeye, we're gonna get Mantis and Gamora and Nebula. I hope they kind of do something about that feet, because those feet are just the only thing that's putting me off with this figure. But everything else is great, especially the wings and the head sculpt. And this Ant-Man figure, wow. Despite not having any effects, he's got a ton of details. Look at the gauntlets, that helmet, look at the chest, the armor, the belt. This thing is a pretty cool figure. I know a lot of collectors have been just skipping these two characters and Star-Lord and all that, but I tell you now, you gotta give these two a chance. They're actually pretty good. I'm very, very happy with them. Both of them are gonna get 9.5 out of 10. And like I said, they're going to improve this one with the feet. And this one, maybe give it a smaller version, like a shrunken version. That would be super cool. That would have made it a perfect figure. Okay, now let's go to my favorites. And I don't think it's any surprise because a lot of you know I am a big Iron Man fan. My favorite Avenger has always been the armored Avenger, Iron Man. And these four figures will take up second place. Maybe if you want to be technical about it, I think I'm gonna have to put these two tied at third place and these two tied at second place. Now I'll tell you why. At first glance, you'd think these would be my favorites because the sculpt on these things are just amazing. Both figures have an insane amount of sculpted details. Look at this monger. You don't even have to pose him. You could have him just standing and he'd look cool, but he still has some articulation. And sadly, that's the thing that puts me off with this figure. The articulation isn't there as much as the other figures. Because of the way the armor has been molded, you can't really get him into a lot of poses. So this is the best I could do, is leaping pose and all that. But regardless of how you pose him, he's still going to look good on any shelf because of this tremendous amount of sculpted detail on him and some pieces that you really have to assemble, like these pistons right here, the gauntlets. Really, really nice. Now, sadly, he doesn't come with any blast effects or anything like that. I think he just blew the budget with this one. He's a pretty heavy figure. Obviously, he's going to be the heaviest figure, heavier than the Iron Spider. But, oh my goodness. I love that they've molded the plastic in metallic gunmetal gray finish or light gray finish, metallic silver. Would have been nice if the cockpit had opened up like that or something. Some blast effects, flame effects, machine gun effects would have been nice. But other than that, a great figure. This figure gets a 9.5 out of 10. Tied up with third place is this guy. I thought this was going to be my favorite, honestly, because when I saw the pieces, when I was about to assemble him, look at this. Look at the details on this figure. I thought they couldn't top that Ironmonger, but look at this. He's got some paint apps and some sculpting on the backside. They didn't have to do that. Normally you wouldn't display this guy facing backwards, but they did it. They tried to make this one as accurate as possible. You got the arc reactor, the prototype right there. You've got his flamethrower right here, the tank. You got that head sculpt. And he's got some attachments right here, the armor attachment that are just sculpted beautifully. Come on, man. This is such a cool looking figure. The only problem I see with this one is the blast effects, because he's supposed to have flame effects, not repulsor blast. Blokees was kind of lazy with this one. They wanted the same blast effects for repulsor blast to simulate the flamethrower effects, but come on, Blokees, you're not fooling anybody. They should have made something that that you could attach onto the flamethrower right here. But they didn't. They wanted to be lazy and just put that in. He's got some extra hands, the regular hands, but yeah, it's a shame. That would have made this figure a perfect figure had the flame effects gone. And like the Ironmonger, it's kind of difficult to pose him because of all that armor on him. But nevertheless, such a super cool figure. It gets a 9.5 out of 10. Just an amazing figure. Okay. On to second place, and it's tied between these two. I gotta give it to these two. Let me just talk about War Machine first, because without a doubt, even before I pre-ordered this figure, when I saw pictures, I knew I was gonna love this War Machine. And sure enough, this War Machine is one badass figure. Oh my goodness! Look at this. He doesn't have repulsor blasts traditionally, but Blokees gave him repulsor blasts, so that's okay. What I think they missed out an opportunity for this one. Instead of giving him the repulsor hands, I would have been happy with fists. I'd be okay with these repulsor blasts, but they should have put some holes in the Gatling gun. That is such a missed opportunity. Unbelievable. They should have put it there, make the effects attach onto the Gatling gun. That would have made this one a super display piece. But they didn't. Sadly, a missed opportunity. Also, the Gatling gun only fits on one side. It doesn't swivel on the other side. That was an easy fix. I don't know why they didn't do that. This peg doesn't really move. You just attach it and it stays fixed. So the gun can't really swing as much. It just, do 360 like that, but that's it. Also, you will notice that this armor is based off of the Iron Man 2 movie War Machine, with the head sculpt being slightly inspired by versions of the comic book War Machine. So they kind of mixed and matched that, but they should have used the Iron Man head sculpt on this one, at least something akin to this, and painted it silver, but they wanted to make it really different, so okay, I'm gonna give him that. Also, he's missing the rockets. That would have made this figure a perfect figure. But as it is, I really had a lot of fun with this one. I'm loving the sculpt, particularly his chest sculpt, even that inaccurate head sculpt. I'm loving it. The figure gets a 9.5 out of 10. Now moving on to the Mark II. Now this figure really surprised me. I honestly did not think I was going to like this figure. I thought this was going to be one of the more boring plain figures, probably going to be as boring as this figure, but it absolutely shocked me. This figure is one of the best figures in this wave, and I'll tell you why. Look at the paint apps. Look at the way the plastic's been molded. Every inch of the figure, except of course the joints, are done in this really nice metallic silver. You would think this was the chase figure. It is so cool. It's got more, I think it's got more metallic paint apps than the Iron Spider, simply because he's got more armor plating and whatnot. But look at this. I mean, come on, man. Really? Unbelievable. He's got 2 blast effects, rightly so. He's got that head sculpt, which is same as this one. And what they did with this one, which I thought they were just going to redo parts of the original Iron Man figure from Series 1, is they've added these shoulder pads, which Hasbro tried to do with their first Iron Man figures back when they acquired Marvel Legends. Look at this. It just changes the dynamic of the figure with these bigger shoulder pads, and I do hope we get re-releases of Iron Man figures, particularly the Mark III, the Mark IV, the Mark V. I want at least from the first 2 movies, the armors there from 1 to 6 be really, well, we already have these. So Mark III, Mark IV, and Mark V, and even Mark VI, and done in this format. That would be so cool. And please do it in metallic format, just like what they're doing with the Chase. That would be super cool. So very impressed with this one, particularly because it just surprised me at how well it looked. So he's going to get, I want to give it a 10 out of 10 because it just blew me away, and definitely one of the best figures, if not the best figure in this series. Okay, let's go now to the top spot. Number 1, obviously, I don't think it's any surprise to most of you. It's going to be this guy right here, the Iron Spider, and he's the Chase, rightly so. Everyone's gonna be gunning for this one. I mean, if you're really interested in getting this one, I would recommend you just buy it straight up from a collector or from an online shop that's selling it. It'll be sold for triple the price of a regular figure, but I tell you, it is worth it. This Iron Spider figure, I think, just took all the budget for this wave. He's got articulated spider legs that are on ball joints right here and hinges right here. He's got 2 spider effects, spider web effects or web shooter effects. I mean, this is what they should have done with the first Spider-Man figure, with the Spider-Man figure, but they didn't. He's got the gauntlets. Everything is done in metallic paint apps except for, I guess, well, it's pretty metallic, if you ask me. Just glossy finish on the shoulders. The thighs, the knees, even the torso, they're done in metallic paint apps or metallic plastic. I am loving this figure. Each of the legs, they do articulate. They're on hinges. It's just a shame that if you notice, the legs are identical. They should be asymmetric or opposite symmetry, if there's such a word. They're identical. You can swap out the legs. They look exactly the same. And it's a shame because you can see now they look asymmetrical because like the way they're attached, this one should be the reverse mirror image of this one, and this one, same as that one, mirror images, but they're not. So I get it. Blokees trying to be efficient with their pieces. They don't want mixed up pieces, or they don't want to have to sort things that you should have left and right pieces and all that. But they do that with the hands. I don't know why it was so difficult to do. They went a little bit lazy on this one, but nevertheless, it's not that obvious. It doesn't really matter. The figure still looks good, even with identical legs. The head sculpt is the same as the basic regular Spider-Man. It's just that the eyes are painted in that blue glossy metallic finish, which I am loving. I mean, come on. How cool is this? So I can really understand why everyone's just gunning for this Chase, and it's a shame it's the Chase. Definitely my favorite. This one takes top spot. And so some final thoughts on the Series 2 Blokees Infinity Saga Marvel figures. I'm loving this line. Especially this second series, I thought every figure was a winner. Obviously, there are some that didn't really quite make my 100% rating, but suffice to say, most of the figures are definitely keepers. I loved, in particular, the Iron Man figures. I think those are my favorite. If you are to get any from this particular wave, it's got to be the Iron Man figures, particularly the Mark II, the Mark I, the War Machine, and the Ironmonger. Now, the other figures are amazing as well, especially that Chase figure. If you can get that, that would be super cool. Easily the best figure in the wave. But every single one of the figures in this wave, I had a lot of fun posing them, building them, and articulating them. I thought it was a great wave. I am definitely excited to keep collecting this line of Blokees figures, and I do hope succeeding waves will continue to impress us and not disappoint. I do hope they re-release some of the figures they released in the first wave, give it that proper leg articulation treatment. I do hope Blokees continues to improve the articulation on their figures, because folks, let's face it, these are the new collectible figures. They're the new Funko Pops. They're the new 3.75-inch figures. They might not replace the 1/12 scale figures, but they're definitely a lot more fun to collect. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think of these Blokees Marvel, the Infinity Saga. Were any of these figures your favorites? Did you not like some of them? Did you like most of them? Let me know in the comments, and as always, hit that notification bell so you never miss out on any of my latest video reviews. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe. Thanks for watching.